My family booked a luxury cruise for everyone except me and their kids. I refused to be their babysitter and got my sweet revenge. Be me, 28, single, no kids. Work as a software developer at a medium-sized company. Apparently designated family doormat now. Have an aunt named Catherine. She's retiring after 35 years as a high school counselor. She's basically the queen bee of our family. Makes sure everyone stays connected. Organizes every holiday dinner. Keeps track of all birthdays. Makes care packages for younger cousins when they start college. She's the glue that holds us together. Her retirement is a huge deal. Was excited to celebrate with her. At least I was until last Thursday. Found out I'm not actually part of the celebration. It all started when I was at my parents' place for dinner. Typical evening. Mom busy making spaghetti and meatballs. Dad half watching some documentary about space. My sister Rachel scrolling on her phone. We're chatting about random stuff. Casually ask if anyone has gift ideas for Aunt Catherine's retirement. Rachel, without looking up from her phone. Oh, we're giving her a group gift on the cruise. Just pause. What cruise? Thought I misheard her. Surely if there was a family trip planned, I'd know about it. Laughed nervously. What are you talking about? She looks up, clearly confused that I'm confused. You know, the cruise we've been planning for months? All the grown-ups in the family are going, "Don't tell me you forgot." She says it like I'm the one who somehow missed this massive piece of information. Turn to Mom for clarification. She gives me this awkward smile, like she doesn't want to be the one to break the news. It's a cruise to celebrate your aunt's retirement, followed by a few days in Maui. Feel like I'm in some kind of weird prank show? Everyone else knew about this elaborate trip, and I was completely in the dark. Ask why I wasn't told about this. Mom gives me a nervous little chuckle. Well, we thought you'd be more help staying back. Staying back? Help with what? Rachel chimes in like it's the most obvious thing ever. The kids, you're so good with them. It just made sense for you to stay and babysit while we're gone. Babysit? Let me paint this picture. Between Rachel, my cousin Jessica, and my other cousin Lily, there are 4 kids under the age of 4, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and twins who just turned 1. And somehow, without even asking me, they had decided I'd be perfectly fine staying behind to watch all of them. Stare at them in disbelief. Wait, so you're telling me you planned this whole trip, didn't invite me, and just assumed I'd be okay staying behind to babysit? Rachel shrugs like it's no big deal. Well, yeah. You're always so reliable. And you don't have kids or anything to tie you down. It just made sense. Made sense to who? Look at Mom hoping for some kind of explanation, one that doesn't make me feel like a complete afterthought. She gives me this weak smile. We didn't mean to leave you out, honey. We just figured you'd understand. You've always been the responsible one. Responsible. That word feels like a slap in the face. I've always been the one who steps up when someone needs help. Sure, I've watched the kids in emergencies, helped with school pickups, even covered for Rachel when she had work conflicts. But this is on a whole different level. They didn't even have the decency to ask me. They just decided. Mom tries to smooth things over. Says they'd bring me back a souvenir. Like that would somehow make up for being excluded? Rachel, meanwhile, acts like I'm overreacting. It's not like you'd enjoy the cruise anyway, she says casually. You're not a big fan of large crowds, right? Excuse me? Now they're deciding what I would and wouldn't enjoy. Sit there trying to process everything. This wasn't just an oversight. This was deliberate. They had been planning this for months. In a private Facebook group, one I wasn't part of. I don't use Facebook, and they all know that. They could have texted, called, or even mentioned it during the dozens of family gatherings we've had. But they didn't. Point out how hurtful it was to be excluded. Mom tries to deflect. We didn't mean to upset you. It was just practical. Practical for them. Leave shortly after. Too angry to keep the conversation going. As the days pass, the anger turns into something deeper. It isn't just about the trip anymore. It's about what this says about how my family sees me. I'm not a person with my own needs. Not someone with plans or desires. I'm just the reliable one. The helper. The one they can count on to sacrifice when it's convenient for them. Keep replaying the conversation in my head. Over and over. Think about all the times I dropped everything to help Rachel. When she was overwhelmed with her toddler, or how I'd rearranged my schedule to help Jessica. When her twins were sick, I've always been there for them. They couldn't even bother to ask if I'd be okay with this. The more I think about it, the more I realize this isn't just a one-time thing. This is how they've always treated me. I've been so eager to help and be there for my family. I didn't even notice how often they took advantage of it. But this time I'm done. Don't know how I'm going to handle this moving forward. But one thing's for sure. I'm not staying behind to babysit. Not this time. Take a few days to simmer in anger. I mean, how do you even wrap your head around something like that? Your entire family plans this huge once-in-a-lifetime vacation. Not only do they not include you, They expect you to just roll over and babysit for free. It feels so calculated, so deliberate, like they don't even see me as part of the family, just the help. Try to cool off and think of how to address it without blowing up. But I'm not going to let this slide. Text Rachel a couple of days later. Tell her I want to go on the cruise too. Figure okay if they didn't include me because they assumed I couldn't or wouldn't want to go. Maybe I could salvage this by putting myself back in the mix. Even mention that I had some time off approved at work. Could easily make the arrangements. Her response. Sorry, there's no space left. Ask her what she means. She explains that the group had already secured their spots months ago. Says the cruise is now sold out. Says something about how it was hard enough coordinating everything for the people who RSVP'd. That they couldn't exactly change plans now. Tell her I don't care if I'm not on the group reservation. Would book my own ticket. Could find my own accommodations. Hell, I'd even fly separately to Maui and meet them there if it came to that. I'm trying to make it work. Even though I'm still hurt about being excluded in the first place. Then she hits me with, well, if you do decide to come, you'd need to figure out childcare first. We've already planned on you staying back with the kids. There it was again. The assumption. Remind her very calmly, I might add, that nobody had asked me to babysit in the first place. Say it wasn't fair to exclude me. Then dump childcare on me, as if that was my only role in this family. Tell her I wanted to celebrate Aunt Catherine too. That it wasn't right to just leave me out of such a big milestone. Her response? A half-baked apology that doesn't even sound sincere. We didn't mean to hurt you. Then she adds, but it's not like we can change anything now. Everything's already set. At this point, I'm done playing nice. Tell her flat out that I'm not babysitting. That if they can't find someone else, it isn't my problem. She starts getting defensive, saying things like, we all have kids and you're the only one who doesn't, as if that somehow justifies their behavior. Tell her that isn't my fault or my responsibility. Say, you had months to tell me about this trip, and instead of including me, you decided to use me. That's not fair and I'm not going along with it. After that, she stops responding. Thought maybe she'd realized how messed up this all was. But no. She just passed the baton to Mom. The next day, Mom calls me. Can already hear the guilt trip in her voice. Before she even says anything, she starts with the classic, I just don't want there to be bad blood in the family. Tell her it isn't about bad blood. It's about respect. Say it isn't right to exclude me from something so important, and then expect me to pick up the slack so everyone else could have fun. She just says, families help each other out. I just about lose it. Say exactly, families help each other. But where was the help for me? Where was the consideration for my feelings? You didn't even think to ask me what I wanted. You just assumed I'd be okay with being left out and used. She tries to soften the blow. We didn't mean to make you feel left out. We just thought you'd be more comfortable staying back. Comfortable? Babysitting 4 kids under 4 while everyone else is enjoying a cruise? Sure, sounds so comfortable. Tell her I'm not doing it. And that's final? She sounds disappointed. Like I'd let her down somehow. She even tries to play the we're all counting on you card. But I'm not budging. After I hang up, feel a mix of emotions. Proud of myself for standing my ground. But also feel this deep sense of betrayal. These are the people who are supposed to love and support me. They couldn't even be bothered to treat me like an equal. The cherry on top? My cousin Jessica texts me later that day, trying to smooth things over. She says she understands why I'm upset, but that I should look at the bigger picture and think about how hard it is for parents to balance everything. Don't even respond. Too drained to argue anymore? But here's the thing, I still have my time off approved at work, and I'll be damned if I spend it at home watching kids, while my family is off living it up. If they thought I was just going to roll over and take this, they've got another thing coming. Start making my own plans. Plans that don't involve babysitting or catering to anyone else's needs. Spend a few days simmering in anger. Decide I'm not going to let them ruin my time off. They want to act like I don't exist? Fine, I can play that game too. If they're all busy having the time of their lives on a cruise, I'll make sure I'm not sitting at home stewing about it. Start planning my own trip. At first, it was just to prove a point to myself, but I realized that I actually needed this. Can't remember the last time I took a vacation just for me. Every trip I'd been on in the past few years was either for work, a family obligation, or tagging along to help someone else out. This time it's going to be different. Decide to head to the mountains. There's this small cabin rental I'd heard about from a coworker. Secluded, cozy, with amazing hiking trails, and a hot tub overlooking a valley. It sounds like heaven. Book it for a week. Don't tell anyone. The day before my family's big cruise departure, pack up my car, turn my phone on silent, and leave. Don't say goodbye. Don't let anyone know I wouldn't be available. Figure if they couldn't be bothered to include me in their plans. I don't owe them a status update on mine. The drive up to the cabin is exactly what I needed. Rolling hills, winding roads, and the kind of quiet that lets you finally breathe. When I get there, I'm blown away by how perfect it is. The cabin is small but charming, with a stone fireplace, big windows, and a deck that overlooks the forest. Spend the first day doing nothing but relaxing, for the first time in what feels like forever. I'm not worrying about anyone else. No kids to watch, no errands to run, no family drama, just me. But of course, the peace doesn't last long. The morning of the cruise, my phone starts blowing up. Even though I'd turned off notifications, still see the missed calls and texts piling up. When I check my phone later, first it's my mom. When can we drop the kids off? Everyone's getting ready to head out. Then my sister Rachel. We're on our way to your place with the car seats. Be home okay? Then my cousin Jessica. Hey, are you ignoring us? We're kind of in a rush here. Don't respond to any of it. As the messages keep coming, they start to get angrier. Rachel texts. This isn't funny. We're all waiting for you to step up. Mom leaves me a voicemail, all guilt-trippy, saying things like, I just don't understand why you'd do this. We're a family. We rely on each other. Finally, Jessica sends me a long, ranty message about how irresponsible I'm being and how selfish it is of me to leave them scrambling at the last minute. She even has the audacity to suggest that I'm ruining Aunt Catherine's special day by making things harder for everyone. Oh, I'm furious. Ruining Aunt Catherine's day? The only reason I'm not there to celebrate her is because they didn't think I was important enough to invite, but now I'm the bad guy. Sure. Turn my phone off completely after that. Not going to let them guilt me into feeling bad for sticking up for myself. The rest of the week is exactly what I needed. Hike trails that overlook stunning views, soak in the hot tub under the stars, spend hours journaling and reflecting on everything. One night as I sit by the fireplace, think about how I've let my family walk all over me for years. I've always been the yes person, the one who dropped everything to help. And while I love my family, I realize I've been sacrificing my own happiness to make their lives easier, but not anymore. By the time I drive back home at the end of the week, feel like a different person. Not angry anymore, just done. Done with being the fallback option. Done with being the invisible helper. Done with being treated like I don't matter. Little did I know that the fallout was waiting for me. When I got back from the cabin, I'm bracing myself for the storm. Know it's coming. My family hasn't heard from me in over a week. Judging by the number of missed calls and texts, they're ready to let me have it. Walk into my house. Barely have time to put my bags down. Before my phone starts ringing, it's my mom. Debate letting it go to voicemail. But figure I might as well get it over with. The second I answer, she launches into it. Where were you? Do you have any idea what you've done? She's angry and disappointed, which is her favorite way to make me feel like the worst person alive. Stay calm and say I was on a trip. The same way you all were. That doesn't go over well. She starts going on about how Rachel, Jessica, and my other cousin had to scramble. Because I wasn't there for the family. Apparently, when I didn't show up, they had to make emergency arrangements. Rachel ended up leaving her 2-year-old with a friend, and Jessica had to cancel her cruise entirely to stay with her twins. And now they're all furious with me. They're saying you ruined the trip. Mom says, that's exactly what I wanted. Take a deep breath and ask her, why is it my fault that they made plans without me? Why is it my responsibility to fix a mess I didn't create? She tries to cut me off, but I'm not done. You didn't invite me, Mom. You didn't even think to tell me about the trip. Until I stumbled across it by accident. And then instead of apologizing, you all just assumed I'd stay back and babysit. Do you have any idea how hurtful that was? She goes quiet for a moment, before saying, we thought you'd understand. You've always been the reliable one. Reliable? There it was again. Tell her being reliable doesn't mean I'm their backup plan. I'm part of this family too. Or at least I thought I was. But you made it clear that my only role here is to take care of everyone else while you all go off and have fun. That's not okay. And I'm not doing it anymore. She doesn't like that at all. Starts talking about how families sacrifice for each other and how I was being selfish by refusing to help. Remind her that families also respect each other, and nobody had respected me when they made these plans without including me. After that, she gets defensive, says she doesn't want to argue. Typical. When she realizes I'm not backing down, she hangs up, but not before throwing in a, I hope you're happy with yourself. For good measure. That didn't stop there. Later that evening, get a long passive-aggressive text from Rachel. She accuses me of abandoning her, says that I left the family in the lurch when they needed me most. Goes on about how hard it was to find someone to watch her daughter last minute, and how her friend wasn't even that good with kids. Jessica also chimes in, sending a rant about how I had ruined the whole trip for her, because she couldn't find anyone to watch the twins. She even throws in a line about how Aunt Catherine was disappointed in me for not being there to celebrate her retirement. That one stung. I love my aunt, and I felt bad that I couldn't be there for her. But I reminded myself that it wasn't my fault. I wasn't even given the chance to be part of the celebration. Don't respond to either of them. Instead, sit down and write a message to the whole family. Yes, the same one I wasn't included in when they were planning the trip. Hey, everyone. I've been hearing a lot of blame being thrown my way for the issues with the trip, so let me set the record straight. First, I wasn't invited on the cruise. Nobody told me about it until I found out by accident. That alone was hurtful. But then I was expected to babysit without even being asked. Second, I'm not responsible for fixing problems. That came from your own assumptions. If you needed my help, you should have asked. I'm part of this family, not your free nanny. Lastly, I need to set some boundaries. From now on, if anyone needs my help, they need to ask me directly. And if I say no, that's the end of it. I won't be guilt-tripped or manipulated into doing things I don't agree to. I love this family, but I also deserve to be treated with respect. Send it and put my phone down. Don't even care what the fallout would be. For once, I'm not bending over backward to please everyone else. Thought my firm message would end the chaos and set clear boundaries. Instead, it was like I had thrown a grenade into the family group chat. The fallout started immediately. By the next day, my phone was flooded with calls, texts, and guilt-tripping voicemails. It wasn't just about them being upset. I could deal with that. No, this was entitlement on a level I didn't know existed. The first call I pick up is from Jessica, the one with the twins. Her tone is sharp and accusatory from the start. I just don't understand how you could do this to us. She begins, skipping any pretense of politeness, let out a slow breath. Do what exactly? Ask, though I already know where this is going. You left us scrambling. She snaps, we thought you'd be home to take care of the kids. And when you weren't, we had no choice but to cancel everything. Do you realize how much money we lost? That's unfortunate. Say calmly but firm. But it's not my responsibility. You should have arranged childcare in advance. If you knew it would be an issue. She gasps like I just insulted her directly. You're being completely unreasonable. This isn't how families treat each other. Families help. Helping requires someone asking for help. Say, keeping my voice steady but firm, no one discussed this with me. No one even mentioned the trip to me. You just assumed I'd be okay with it. And that's not fair. She doesn't like that answer. It was an accident that no one told you. She argues, her voice dripping with exasperation. We thought you'd be fine watching the kids. You've done it before. And I've done it before when I was asked. Counterback. Asked and agreed to it. This time no one asked. You can't just make plans for me and expect me to be okay with it. Then she hits me with something. That leaves me momentarily speechless. You know we could have called the police. For child abandonment, you were supposed to be home to care for them. Takes me a second to process what she just said. What? Ask, genuinely baffled. You left us in a bind. She presses on. You were the one we were counting on. It's neglectful to just leave. When the kids were supposed to be with you? Can't help it. I laugh. You can't be serious. Say, you can't report me to the police. For not agreeing to a responsibility? I was never asked to take on... That's ridiculous. She's silent for a moment. Take the opportunity to keep going. My house isn't even child-proofed. Say, and to be honest, I don't particularly enjoy spending time with kids. I'm not equipped for this, and it's not something I want to do. She explodes at that. Wow, so now you're just admitting you don't care about your family. Is that it? You think you're too good to help out? No. Say, boiling inside, I think I'm allowed to have my own life and my own plans. Just because I've helped in the past doesn't mean I'm obligated to sacrifice my time and energy. Whenever you feel like it. She hangs up on me after that, but it doesn't end there. Rachel jumps in next, sending a furious string of texts, accusing me of destroying the family dynamic and making Aunt Catherine's retirement about me. She rants about how selfish I'm being and how I'm letting everyone down. Don't even bother replying to her. Then Mom calls. Unlike Jessica, she isn't angry. She's disappointed, which is somehow worse. Honey, she begins, we're all just so hurt by what's happened. This isn't like you. I raised you to be better than this. Mom, interrupt her. I'm not doing this. If you're calling to guilt me, save it. I'm not trying to guilt you, she insists, though her tone says otherwise. I'm just saying you've really upset your sister and cousin. They were counting on you. and they should have asked me if I was available. Say firmly. They didn't. They assumed? That's not my problem. She sighs heavily. This isn't how families are supposed to work. We're supposed to help each other. Helping requires respect. Say firmly. No one respected me enough to include me in the trip. No one respected me enough to ask if I could help. They just made plans and expected me to fall in line. That's not helping. That's being used. She doesn't know how to respond to that. Instead, switches tactics. Aunt Catherine is so upset that this drama has overshadowed her celebration. Do you even care about how this is affecting her? Feel my patience snap. If you cared so much about Aunt Catherine's celebration, maybe you shouldn't have excluded someone. Who wanted to celebrate her too? This isn't my fault, Mom. Stop trying to make it my responsibility. To fix your mistakes. She doesn't say much after that. Just another heavy sigh before muttering, I hope you're happy with yourself. And hanging up, the only bright spot in all of this is Aunt Catherine herself. She calls me later that evening. I just wanted to check in on you. She says, I heard about the drama, and I wanted to say I'm sorry. For what? Ask, genuinely surprised. For how the family has treated you. She says, I didn't realize you hadn't been included in the trip. If I'd known, I would have insisted you come. I hate that this has become such a mess. Her words mean more to me than I could say. Thank her. And for the first time in days, feel a little lighter. As for the rest of my family, been sitting here staring at my phone, wondering if I should just turn it off and walk away from all of it. Part of me thinks I should let them know exactly how I feel. Lay it all out so there's no confusion. But the other part of me is just so tired. Tired of the arguments. Tired of the guilt trips. Tired of feeling that nothing I say will ever make a difference. Maybe it's time to just stop trying and let them figure things out without me. After the chaos of the past few days, it becomes painfully clear that my family isn't going to change. No amount of explaining or boundary setting would make them see me as anything other than the reliable one, the person they could lean on, without ever considering my feelings or needs. Had hoped things might calm down after Aunt Catherine's kind words and my firm message in the group chat, but that wasn't the case. Rachel's vague Facebook posts about toxic family members continued, with comments like, some people forget what loyalty means, flooding in from her friends. Jessica was still sending passive-aggressive texts, though I stopped reading them after the first couple. Even Mom, who had shown a flicker of self-awareness during our last conversation, was back to guilt, tripping me every chance she got. It was exhausting. Found myself lying awake at night, replaying every argument, every accusation, and every moment when they tried to make me feel small. Kept asking myself, was this worth it? Could I keep putting up with this kind of treatment? The answer was no. For years I had bent over backward. To be the good daughter, the helpful sister, the reliable cousin. But what had that gotten me? Exclusion, disrespect, and entitlement. Realized I couldn't keep pouring myself into people who only saw me as a convenience. It was time to cut ties, so I decided to call my mom. She was the hardest to confront, because despite everything, I did still love her. But love wasn't enough to justify the way she treated me. When I called her, she answered on the first ring. Honey, she says, her voice already dripping with relief. I'm so glad you called. Let's put all this behind us, okay? Don't want to fight anymore. This isn't a fight, Mom. Say, keeping my voice calm but firm. This is me telling you that I need space. A lot of it. What does that mean? She asks. It means I can't keep doing this. Say, I love you. But I can't be part of a family that doesn't respect me. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I'm met with guilt tripping, accusations. And all this, I deserve better than that. Her voice breaks. So what, you're just going to walk away from me? From your sister? From everyone? If that's what it takes to protect my peace? Yes, you can't mean that. She says, sounding desperate now. Families fight. That's what we do. But we work through it. You don't just cut people off. I've been working through it for years. Say, and all it's done is hurt me. I'm done. She cries, begs, but I don't waver. Eventually she realizes I'm not going to budge and hangs up on me. For Rachel and Jessica, I just simply block them and don't answer their calls. Half expected an angry message from Mom or some other family member. But to my surprise, it was quiet. Maybe they finally got the hint. For the first few days, feel a mix of relief and sadness. Cutting ties with my family wasn't easy. These were people I had grown up with, celebrated holidays with, and leaned on during tough times. But at the same time, I realized most of those memories were one-sided. I had given so much of myself to them. but they had rarely given anything back.